Okay, we have a couple of contractors on the show now. Their first time on City Line, so give them a very warm welcome. It's Andrew Black and David Steckel. They seem to love you already, which is always a good sign.
Yeah.
You know, if there's anything that people love talking about, it's real estate and renovations. We love talking about it on the show, but when you're going through a renovation, it can be a really trying time. So it's nice to go through some of the myths that are out there. So you have this kitchen, you break down the kitchen, you decide you want a new kitchen, you bring in a couple of good-looking dudes like yourself, and
very dreamy.
yeah, and there's this idea that if you're doing stuff inside the house, you don't really need a permit. We hear all the time about permits. Do you need a permit if you're doing interior renovations, electrical work? Do you?
You do. So it's, you know, that's a myth, and you have to kind of look at it this way. If you're going to bring someone into your house and possibly offer up your life savings, do you want a person who's going to try to do a job for you and not have any legality involved? So if you're going to not go the permit route, that's like getting a car that hasn't been tested for safety standards. So basically, anytime you're removing an interior wall or moving any plumbing or changing the outside of your house, you need a permit.
Yeah.
When you're painting or doing more like decorating, you do not need a permit. But any sort of wall moving, plumbing, or exterior change to your house, you do need a permit.
How long have you two been running this business for?
So I guess we started in about 2008 together.
Yeah.
And before that, I was with my family business.
Yeah, so the long history of doing contracting between you two. What is the biggest thing you see when you walk into people's homes? What's the biggest mistake people make, would you say?
I mean, that sort of comes on the tail end of the project when the design's involved and the decorating's involved.
Yeah.
I find people always go out and purchase items that they like, but they don't necessarily work together.
Yeah.
And we always sort of hate to see that at the end of our job, like the renovation looks beautiful and everything's just perfect and mint, and then they go and they decorate it with the drapery and the things that really count and really make the impact. And then sometimes we can't even take photos of it for our website or anything. It's just like,
Are you serious?
That's all that money for,
Because they've made so many mistakes?
Well, it's hard not to choose. If you like something, you want to purchase it.
Yeah.
But it's really hard to stick to a theme or an anchor, or I'm sure all your designers will come on the show, but it's very hard to be strict with yourself when you're choosing products.
Very interesting. You know, I feel like, David, you give so many students out there right now who are struggling to find work a lot of hope, because what's your degree in?
English literature, actually. Yeah. It translates very well to construction.
I can imagine. I think that's great, though. There's a whole generation of us that went out there and got these liberal arts degrees thinking, I don't know what. But you've landed in a great gig right now. This is incredible.
It's, you know, university and your education teaches you discipline and the ability to plan and manage your time. And truthfully, construction really comes down to time management, meeting expectations, and of course, budgeting and those things.
Totally.
It's more the sales process. Well-spoken. He gets the jobs. He closes
the jobs. He gets the jobs done.
Yeah.
Always be closing, ABC.
Yeah.
I like that. I also learned a lot about partying while I was in university. Yes, a lot about that.
That helps.
Well, there's always the party at the end of the job.
That's right. Let's talk about leaving a deposit. So some contractors will come in and they say, I need a 50% deposit right off the bat, and then the other 50% when it's done. What do you think of that?
I mean, there really is no sort of legality with deposit, how much of a deposit you're supposed to leave.
Yeah.
I mean, there are I guess there's sort of industry standards, but it really depends on the project, the size of the project. If you're just getting your windows replaced, typically they're going to want 50 deposit and then 50 on completion, like COD. But if it's a large-scale project, you just sort of need a retainer, like a few $1,000s, because you're doing bi-weekly, as per the contract, standard contracts, you're doing bi-weekly payments.
Okay.
So you just need enough to cover the first 2 weeks of the project before you're going to bill and receive a payment on the bill. So I wouldn't, if someone on a $400,000 job is asking for 50%, I'd be a little reluctant to give it to them.
That's a bit of a problem. What about it's always cheaper to pay cash and avoid the HST? Is that a myth?
I mean, it actually is cheaper.
It's cheaper. Is it better?
No. You have to avoid cash because, again, a lot of things are happening to your home. You know, you're changing your electrical. What happens if a month after your contractor's in, your sink is leaking? All of a sudden, he's not answering your phone, and you can't really pursue your contractor because you don't have a contract So
Yeah.
there's no contracting without a contract. And cash really, the goal of cash is to steer away from a contract. So the way Andrew and I run our business is that it is a business. And if somebody wants to go cash route, they're not really the client for us because we try to offer, our warranties, and all of our sub-trades have the warranties. And if you're not paying the government, they're going to get you eventually. So
They'll find you.
They will find you.
Yeah, they're very good at that. They're very good at that, not when they owe you, but when you owe them, right? And then finally, one more. Renovations are always late and over budget. Is that a myth or is that just reality?
Well, I like to say it sort of depends on the client because they're the ones who always, while you're here, why don't we replace the windows?
The while
or
you're
while
here
you're
clause.
here, let's renovate the basement. Or so the change orders. It starts off that okay, we're going to finish in 6 months.
Yeah.
But then the budget kind of gets out of hand because they keep adding different items and then adds to the timeline.
So it's
and
our
so
fault. Is
ultimately,
that what it is?
It's your fault.
It's never your fault. You're never over. It's
ever
never
our fault.
no.
We're always on
Okay.
time.
All right then. Thanks very much.
Guaranteed.
Give them a big hand. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Let's put a break. We've got more coming up. Stay with us.